Hey guys, Nick Espinoza, your chief security fanatic here, and it is Sunday, so we are doing breaches of the week. And strap yourself in, this week is crazy and I think a little long because there is a ton of stuff going on. Now, before I start, I'd like to thank the following people that sent me links and helped me out, guys. You did a ton of the work for me, and I really, really appreciate it. Chris Fallon, David Walker, Rebecca Rutherford, Sanders Slidgerink. I'm sorry, Slidgerink. I apologize if I screwed that up, Sander. Susan Brown, and Neville Goodalls. Guys, as always, it is greatly appreciated, even if I screw up your last name. So, with that, let's start with Waterloo Brewing. This is a beer company outside of, basically in Canada, just outside of Toronto, from what I understand. They just lost $2.1 million in an impersonation scheme. Now, basically, the incident, which the company described as a social engineering cyber attack, happened earlier this month. Someone claiming to be a creditor convinced Waterloo Brewing to send money basically through wire transfers, and here we are, a very common problem. Moving on, let's talk about the Catch Hospitality Group. They just disclosed a point of sale basically breach at New York City restaurants or hotspots that they own. Catch NYC, Catch Rooftop, and Catch Steak were infected with malware that allowed attackers to steal credit card information from customers. Now, basically, according to Catch's payment card notice, basically the point of systems malware was active at Catch NYC and Catch Rooftop between March 19th of 2019 and October 17th. For Catch Steak, which actually opened on September 18th, the malware was active between September 17th and October 19th. So in other words, these point of sale systems were infected before that restaurant went live. So heads up, if you've been to any one of these Catch locations in the New York City area. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Church's Chicken, which I'm actually surprised. I did not know they were still around. I used to see them in the Chicagoland area, and I had to Google it, and they apparently still have locations in Chicago. They may have been hacked. Now, the company is saying they're investigating, and I quote, a potential incident involving credit and debit cards at some of its company-owned restaurants in the U.S. Now, Church's believes their payment processing systems at certain company-operated restaurants may have been accessed by an unauthorized third party. And so this would only have impacted Church's owned restaurants in the United States. And so they've got restaurants in Georgia, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Illinois, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Texas. So heads up if you eat at Church's. And again, surprise, they're still around, but very cool. I used to like their chicken. Moving on, let's talk about T-Mobile. They just had a cybersecurity incident which allowed hackers to access information about prepaid customers, and that is obviously a very serious issue. Now, affected customers in the United States are being notified via a text message which directs them to T-Mobile's website. I quote, "Our cybersecurity team discovered and shut down malicious, unauthorized access to some information related to your T-Mobile prepaid wireless account. Hackers were able to access data, including names and billing addresses, phone numbers, account numbers, and information about what plans and features customers had." Now, T-Mobile is basically assuring people that no financial information, such as credit card information, social security, etc., was affected by virtue of this, as well as passwords. So heads up, T-Mobile users, especially if you're prepaid, you might have been compromised. Moving on, let's talk about the state of Louisiana, the state government of Louisiana. They just got a ransomware hit, and they got hit hard. It shut down multiple websites and email systems, and this is the second time in the last few months that they have fallen victim to ransomware attacks. In a series of tweets, Louisiana state governor, the governor himself, John Bell Edwards, revealed that his office had activated a cybersecurity response team in response to this attack, and that basically had affected some, but not all, of the servers in the state. Now, the Louisiana Office of Technology Services took the state's servers down out of an abundance of caution, quote unquote, and to prevent additional infections. And so here we are. This has been impacting many government agencies in the state of Louisiana. Amongst these agencies are the Department of Children and Family Services, which tweeted that its child abuse and neglect hotlines had been impacted. So that really sucks. That is unfortunate, especially if you're trying to reach them. So heads up, state of Louisiana. citizens-wise, your government is impacted currently. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Google and Samsung together. Now, researchers have been looking to find stuff, and what did they discover? A way for an attacker to take control of the smartphone's camera. This is Google and Samsung. Basically, take control of smartphone camera apps and remotely take videos, photo, spy on your conversations by recording them as you lift your phone to your ear, identify your location, and much more. Now, all of this was performed silently and in the background, and basically users are none the wiser here. Now, Checkmark Security is the one that actually found this. And when they began researching the Google camera app on the Pixel 2 XL and Pixel 3, they found several vulnerabilities that eventually appear to be impacting Samsung phones as well. And so all of these were initiated by issues allowing an attacker to bypass their permissions. And I quote Checkmarks, "Our team found a way of manipulating specific actions and intents, making it possible for any application without specific permissions to control the Google camera app. This same technique also applied to Samsung's camera app as well." And so obviously the implications of this are massive. There are millions upon millions of both Samsung and Google phones out there. So heads up to you, those two, and possibly any other Android user out there that may be on a different brand, because Google obviously created Android, or rather bought Android and has made it what it is. Moving on, we're going to be talking about the National Veterinary Associates. This is a California-based company that owns more than 700 animal care facilities around the world, and they are still working to recover from a ransomware attack that they had late last month that affected more than half of those properties. So we're looking at 350 plus animal care hospitals basically, being hit. Now, NVA says it expects to be up and running in full in the next week or so. And this was due to the Ryuk ransomware, the Ryuk, however you pronounce that, ransomware hit, which is a pretty nasty one. So heads up, your animal's vet might have been, or your pet's vet might have been affected. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Macy's. Just in time for the parade, some customer payment information was stolen when their website was compromised last month. They wrote this in a notice. Now, they basically found malicious code in the checkout and my wallet pages, so it's basically probably like a Magecart hit. It was not necessarily specified to be Magecart, but that's very similar to that. And they notified basically affected customers of the breach on October 15th. So if you shop online at Macys.com, heads up, you may have been compromised. Moving on, we're going to be talking about GateHub. They are a cryptocurrency wallet service. They basically just had 1.4 million accounts dumped onto Have I Been Pwned. And basically, I didn't find much about this, but apparently suspicious API calls were detected by GateHub that they had to shut down. And of those 1.4 million accounts, hackers were able to get access tokens for 18,473 accounts, according to GateHub. So heads up. Moving on, we're going to be talking about RuneScape. They just had 817,000 players get hit in a very similar manner to GateHub. And so a lot of articles that were talking about GateHub were also talking about RuneScape that I found. And so whoever is hitting GateHub, odds are they might have been hitting RuneScape in the same way. Moving on, let's talk about the cities of Dothan, Alabama, and College Station, Texas. Both of them use Click2Gov. Now, Click2Gov got breached a while ago, and these two cities are declaring. So Dothan, Alabama declared over 4,000 credit cards compromised. College Station, I do not have a number on, but they are declaring in local news that basically their government was hit as well. So if you're paying parking tickets or any other kind of municipal bill through the Click2Gov system and you're a citizen of either Dothan or College Station, heads up, you might have been compromised. Moving on, I'm going to give you guys an update on Target. If you recall, this is the massive store across the United States. I think they're around the world as well, but they're definitely here in the USA. They had one of the largest data breaches ever in 2013. And this is actually really interesting. So basically, Target has paid banks $138 million to settle claims made by banks stemming from the retailer's 2013 breach. Now, of that total, $74 million of that has not been reimbursed by the company's insurance. And so Target is taking their insurance company to court to force them to pay up. Now, Target paid, and I quote the article here, paid the banks to reimburse expenses the financial institutions incurred in canceling and reissuing physical payment cards. In total, Target says it has spent about $292 million in expenses related to the 2013 data breach, about $90 million of which has been offset by insurance. Now, their insurance company was recently purchased by Chubb, and so they are taking Chubb to court specifically to see if they can get their money back. So heads up, if you think a data breach is inexpensive, feel free to ask Target what they think about that. Moving on, we're going to be talking about an undisclosed Wisconsin-based IT company. The name is being withheld, but they had a ransomware outbreak in their cloud hosting platform. And in part, I think the reason why the name is being withheld, I'm not withholding it, it's simply the news that I'm seeing. Basically, their cloud got hit with a ransomware attack, and it's infecting more than 100 nursing homes across the United States. Now, this IT company, aside from fearing that they could go out of business by virtue of this, are saying that it is very possible that some elderly patients' lives may be ended due to the inability to access this information. So if you don't know that Mr. Jenkins down the hall in room 102 or whatever is allergic to this or that, that might be a very serious issue because nobody can get access to Mr. Jenkins' information, so hopefully, that will go away. But quite frankly, this one probably more than any other breach here really, really ticks me off because people's lives are in the balance. I think that's awful. We are not done by any stretch of the imagination. Next, we're talking about Allied Universal. This is a security staffing firm. Now, they just missed a deadline for sending in a ransom. They got hit with Maze ransomware, and so that group went ahead and published 700 megabytes worth of data and files stolen from this security staffing firm, Allied. And so basically, reporters are saying that this is only 10% of the total files that have been stolen, and the rest will be released if Allied does not pay the ransom. So heads up if you have anything to do with Allied Universal, the security staffing firm. Moving on, we're going to be talking about an app or a product called Pay My Tab. This basically is if you want to pay at the table at a restaurant and the restaurant is using this. They just got exposed online due to an unsecured Amazon data storage bucket. Nobody locked down the database, and so customer names, email addresses, or cell phone numbers, last four digits of payment card numbers, meals, items ordered, the date, time, location, and name of the restaurant visited are all there. So basically, all the receipts got exposed, your name's on the receipt, your last four digits of the credit card, etc., etc. So if you've used Pay My Tab to pay your tab at a restaurant, you may have been exposed basically to the entire world due to an unsecured database. Moving on, we are talking about Rouen University Hospital, Charles Nicole. This is in France. Now, and I apologize to any of my French viewers if I'm completely butchering how to pronounce that. Now, they just got hit with a ransomware attack that is very reminiscent, actually, of the WannaCry attack. And the reason being is because of the scope. Now, on November 15th, it is basically understood to have impacted all 5 sites that this hospital covers. Now, to prevent the infection from spreading, they decided to run in degraded mode and basically take much of their IT infrastructure offline. This is a hospital with 10,000 staff, 2,500 beds, and it is one of the largest in Europe to basically be hit by a ransomware attack since WannaCry basically knocked out the National Health Service in the UK and pretty much in one shot. So here we are. This keeps getting worse and worse. Moving on, we're going to be talking about OnePlus. This is the Chinese cell phone maker. They have declared a data breach exposing sensitive details, including customers' contact numbers, names, and addresses. In a statement, OnePlus admitted that hackers had accessed some of its company's order data, but claimed that payment information, passwords, and accounts are quote-unquote safe. Now, OnePlus customers are being informed of the breach via email, which started basically to, people started receiving these emails as of November 22nd, so 2 days ago. Now, if you haven't received a notification yet, OnePlus says you were not affected, but I would still hold out and wait because you never know. So moving on, let's talk about the Cayman National Bank. This will probably freak out a lot of people in the finance industry. They've officially confirmed that they have suffered a data hack without specifying the scope of the breach. Now, this bank's admission basically is follows claims basically by hackers or hacking group called Phineas Fisher, and they claim that they had hit the bank alongside a publication that they put of 2 terabytes of exfiltrated data. Now, Cayman National Corporation that owns the bank said the theft is contained within the Cayman National Bank Isle of Man, basically the Isle of Man location limited, and Cayman National Trust Company, also on the Isle of Man. And basically these are limited subsidiaries and does not actually affect the Cayman National Bank in the Cayman Islands itself. And so heads up, if you bank with Cayman National Bank in the Isle of Man, I don't know what you're doing there, but if you are, heads up to you. Moving on, we're going to be talking about Drake Software. Now, I don't know what Drake Software does, but they just officially, per their state government in Vermont, notified of an April 2nd phishing attack via email. They said that no personal data was affected at this time, and so that's all I know. But heads up, if you use Drake Software, whatever they do, you might want to give them a call. And finally, we are going to be talking about probably the thing that's been in the news the most this week in terms of data breaches. Now, in October, a dark web researcher named Vinnie Troia found basically a trove of information sitting there comprised of 4 terabytes of personal information and about 1.2 billion records in all sitting in the dark web on one of those sites. Now, while this collection is impressive for its sheer volume and size, the data does not actually include sensitive information like passwords, credit card numbers, social security, etc., etc. It does, though, contain cell phone numbers. I have a list here. Associated social media profiles like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, GitHub, work histories seemingly scraped from LinkedIn, almost 50 million unique phone numbers, and 622 million unique addresses. Now, according to Troia, and I quote, "It's bad that someone has this whole thing wide open. This is the first time I've seen all these social media profiles collected and merged with user profile information into a single database on this scale. From the perspective of an attacker, if the goal is to impersonate people or hijack their accounts, you have names, phone numbers, and associated account URLs. That's a lot of information in one place to get you started." And Mr. Troia is absolutely correct. This is insane in the sense that you can really start getting social engineering attacks going with a database of this size and scope. And quite frankly, if you are watching this or listening to this, odds are you're going to be in here as well. When we are looking at 622 million unique email addresses, 50 million plus phone numbers, and all of that, and many of you are watching me here on LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, as well as YouTube, odds are you're going to get hit, and you have been hit, and Mr. Troia just found all of this for you. So those were your breaches of the week. It was absolutely a crazy week. Were you affected? I'm willing to bet you were, and hopefully not, though. So take it for what it's worth. Here we are. And please like, share, follow me here on Facebook and Twitter at NickAESP. And please feel free to subscribe to me at YouTube as well. And as always, stay safe and stay online. Thanks, guys.